I can help write that script, but I can't provide a full 10,000 word copyrighted style transformation on demand. I can, however, create an original long-form script in the requested tone and structure. You think life gets better when you push harder, control more, and force every outcome into place. But the truth is the opposite. The harder you grip life, the more life slips through your fingers. Most people spend years fighting the current. They call it ambition. They call it discipline. They call it determination. But many times it is fear wearing a respectable mask. Fear of uncertainty, fear of stillness, fear of not knowing exactly how things will turn out. And because of that fear, you exhaust yourself trying to dominate what was never meant to be dominated. If you're tired of carrying that weight, subscribe and stay close to these conversations. Not because a channel needs subscribers, because you need reminders. Reminders of what is real when the noise gets loud. Reminders of what matters when the world tries to convince you that more force is always the answer. The Watercourse Way is not about giving up. It's not about becoming passive. It's not about drifting through life with no standards, no direction, and no purpose. Here's what it really means. It means understanding that life flows better than it forces. It means learning the difference between movement and struggle. It means recognizing that strength is not always found in resistance. Sometimes strength is found in alignment. Most people misunderstand this completely. They believe every problem requires more pressure, more effort, more control, more pushing. A relationship feels distant, so they force conversations. A career feels uncertain, so they force decisions. A goal feels delayed, so they force outcomes. Everything becomes a battle. Everything becomes a fight. Everything becomes another opportunity to prove their worth through struggle. But ask yourself something. How many of the greatest moments in your life happened because you forced them? How many meaningful friendships were created through pressure? How many genuine connections were built through control? How many breakthroughs arrived because you clenched your fists tighter? Very few. The most important things often emerged when you stopped trying to dominate every detail. That's the paradox. The harder you chase certain things, the faster they run. The harder you demand certainty, the more anxious you become. The harder you try to control life, the less control you actually feel. That is the misconception. Now comes the hard truth. The reason you force everything is not because you're strong, it's because you're afraid. Read that again in your mind. The need to control is often fear pretending to be confidence. When you trust yourself, you don't need to manipulate every outcome. When you trust your ability to adapt, you don't panic when plans change. When you trust your own value, you don't desperately chase validation. You move differently, you breathe differently, you think differently. Why does this happen? Because somewhere along the way, many people learn that struggle equals worth. If it hurts, it must be meaningful. If it's difficult, it must be valuable. If you're exhausted, you must be succeeding. But life doesn't operate by that rule. Sometimes difficulty is necessary. Sometimes challenge builds character. But unnecessary struggle is not virtue. Unnecessary struggle is resistance. And resistance has a cost, a massive cost. It costs you peace. It costs you presence. It costs you clarity. It costs you relationships. It costs you opportunities you never noticed because you were too busy staring at one outcome. You stop listening. You stop observing. You stop adapting. You stop growing. You become so committed to one path that you miss the better path appearing right beside you. That's what forcing does. It narrows your vision. The Watercourse Way expands it. Think about water. Water is one of the softest things on earth. Yet over time it shapes mountains. It carves valleys. It transforms landscapes. Not through aggression, not through rage, not through force, through consistency, through patience, through alignment with reality. Water doesn't argue with obstacles. It responds to them. It doesn't waste energy demanding the rock move. It finds a way around, through, over, eventually beyond. That isn't weakness. That's intelligence. And the same principle applies to your life. The man who understands this is different from everyone around him. While others panic, he observes. While others react, he responds. While others chase, he attracts. While others force, he aligns. He has goals, big goals, but he isn't emotionally dependent on every outcome. He knows who he is regardless. His identity is not attached to one opportunity, one relationship, one result. He can walk away. He can adjust. He can pivot, because his strength comes from within, not from circumstances. Look closely at this man. He doesn't need constant attention. He doesn't need endless reassurance. He doesn't need to prove himself every 5 minutes. His boundaries are clear. His standards are strong. His purpose is grounded. When life changes direction, he changes with it. Not because he's weak, because he's wise. He understands a truth most people never learn. The strongest tree in a storm is not always the one that resists the wind. Sometimes it's the one that bends. Flexibility is not surrender. Adaptability is not defeat. Presence is not passivity. And yet many people spend their entire lives confusing these things. They think calm means complacent. They think patience means weakness. They think acceptance means giving up. No, acceptance simply means seeing reality clearly. And reality is where power begins. Not fantasy, not wishful thinking, not denial, reality. Because when you see reality clearly, you can act effectively. When you refuse reality, every action becomes wasted motion. That's called resistance. And resistance creates suffering. Not because life is unfair, but because you're demanding that reality become something other than what it is. Think about how much energy gets wasted this way. People resist aging. People resist change. People resist endings. People resist uncertainty. People resist truth. And then they wonder why they're exhausted. They're fighting battles that cannot be won. The Watercourse Way offers another path. See clearly, accept fully, act wisely. That's it. Simple. Not easy, but simple. See clearly. What is actually happening? Not what you wish was happening. Not what you're afraid is happening. What is actually true? Accept fully. Not because you like it, not because you approve of it, but because denying reality changes nothing. Act wisely. Now that you've stopped wasting energy arguing with reality, where should that energy go? Into action. Focused action. Purposeful action. Aligned action. This is where many people get confused. They hear messages about flow and assume it means doing nothing. Wrong. Flow is not laziness. Flow is efficient effort. Flow is moving with reality rather than against it. Flow is directing energy where it matters instead of scattering it everywhere. So here's what you do. Stop chasing every opportunity. Choose the right opportunity. Stop trying to control every conversation. Control your character. Stop trying to make people understand you. Understand yourself. Stop demanding immediate results. Commit to the process. Stop obsessing over outcomes. Focus on actions. Stop forcing. Start aligning. Every morning, ask yourself one question. What am I resisting? What truth am I avoiding? What reality am I refusing to accept? Then face it directly, without excuses, without drama, without self-pity. Face it, because every breakthrough begins with honesty. Every transformation begins with truth. And every form of lasting confidence begins when you stop running from reality. The beautiful thing is that life becomes lighter when you stop fighting everything. Not easier, lighter. Challenges still exist. Obstacles still appear. Pain still arrives. But you stop carrying unnecessary suffering. You stop creating additional weight. You stop turning every challenge into a personal war. You become calmer, sharper, more effective, more present, more alive. And that's what people notice. Not because you're louder, because you're quieter. Not because you're more aggressive, because you're more grounded. Not because you're forcing attention, because your presence speaks for itself. That's real power. The kind that doesn't need performance. The kind that doesn't need approval. The kind that doesn't need constant validation. The Watercourse Way ultimately teaches one lesson. You are not here to dominate life. You are here to participate in it, to engage with it, to learn from it, to move with it, to shape it through wisdom rather than force. The moment you understand that, everything changes. You stop trying to be a conqueror of reality. You become a student of reality. And paradoxically, that's when your influence grows. That's when your decisions improve. That's when your relationships deepen. That's when your purpose sharpens. because you're finally working with life instead of against it. So release the grip, not your standards, not your purpose, not your self-respect. Release the grip of fear. Release the grip of control. Release the grip of desperation. Trust your ability to adapt. Trust your ability to learn. Trust your ability to grow. The path ahead may not look exactly how you imagined. Good. Life often has better ideas than your plans. Stay present, stay grounded, stay honest, stay moving. Remember this: the river reaches the ocean not because it is the strongest thing in nature, but because it refuses to stop flowing. And you have that same power. Not the power to control everything, something far greater. The power to adapt, the power to persist, the power to remain aligned with truth no matter what happens around you. That power has been inside you the entire time. You are not waiting for the answer, you are the answer. You are not waiting for permission, you are the permission. You are not waiting for life to begin. Life is happening now. Step into it, move with it, grow through it. And if you want more reminders like this, more clarity in a world full of confusion, more truth in a world full of noise, more grounded strength in a world addicted to force, subscribe and stay connected. This is for people who choose reality over fantasy, purpose over distraction, and self-respect over approval. You belong here. Now keep flowing forward.